On today's episode of the SBS podcast, we start by discussing the latest USC blunders, both on and off the field. And going off that note, we each share our Mount Rushmore of hate in the world of college basketball. We then take a look back on UCLA's 35-32 win against Rutgers. And then, of course, we wrap things up with another segment of Getting Parlayed. That is all coming up next on the SBS pod. Looking at the agenda for today, it looks like we've got some USC clownery to discuss. And it's not even about their imploding football program. Look at that. Wow. Today, the LA Times released an article titled Beyond Varsity Blues. In pursuit of donations, USC admitted affluent kids as walk-on athletes. Okay. Now, I love clowning on USC as much as just about anybody. But unless I'm skewed, is this not like the same exact thing as like we already knew with what happened 5 years ago with Lori Loughlin and Operation Varsity Blues? Isn't that exactly what happened? Like, how is this not just what we already knew?
Yeah, I think
it's very similar.
Yeah, I think there's just some new details in there. It was a really long article, so I didn't read all of it, admittedly, but seemed it was like a lot of millionaires and billionaires paying off the UCLA athletics and donating money.
USC athletics?
Sorry, USC athletics, and donating money to the various programs, including golf, volleyball, tennis was a few that they named, to get their kids playing on those teams as walk-ons. And I think there was one Thai billionaire who donated $3 million to the USC golf team. His kid apparently had like D's and F's in high school.
It says it's a 90% acceptance rate. How bad do you have to be at this sport to be in that 10%?
Yeah.
I mean, boy, 90% acceptance rate for people that didn't even end up making the team in the long run. If you were that 10%, you must be the biggest shithead of all time. All of that aside, on a more football-related note, if you would have told me 3 years ago that when USC, when they hired Lincoln Riley, that they'd be coming off, in his third year, they're coming off of a 7-win season, and they're now 3-4, and now have to compete for the rest of the year just to make a bowl game, I obviously would not believe you. Mm-hmm. I mean, dude, when Lincoln got hired, for me at least, I mean, that was like a big, like, oh, shit moment for me. I was like, well, you know, it was fun. They've been mediocre. They had the Carroll days, of course, and they had a few mishaps. It was Kiffin and then Sark. Helton was a bad hire, and that went on way longer than it needed to. And then they finally got what I thought was like their guy. Because even right now with this bad USC team, they're still – I read today that they have 3 times the amount of 4-stars starting on their defense than UCLA currently does. Mm-hmm. And we're ranked ahead of them defensively, statistically. So – it's always just been a matter of, like, can they just get a guy that can utilize, like, they're just one hire away. But it's been that way now for we're not far from 20 years. Like, Pete Carroll was not a recent phenomenon. It's been pushing decades now. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, I mean, I don't know, was it Keon or you, Kyle, saying that he's got to be on the hot seat now. I mean, I read that the buyout is reportedly, like, close to $80 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like, fact check me on it. I know I read it somewhere, and I read that multiple through different sources. I mean, $80 million, man. I know USC has USC money, but that's astronomical.
Yeah, you're spot on, Ross. $80 million. Just looked it up.
I mean, his contract alone, 10 years, $110 million. He's making $11 million a year. That is $4 million more annually than Dan Lanning. And compare where those two programs are at. It's a shit show across town. It is a shit show over there.
And I keep seeing the tweets of all these USC fans talking about Clay Helton's record over 20-something odd games, 3 seasons versus Lincoln Riley's. And I think now Clay Helton's 2 games better than Riley's at this point.
Dude, you know who's the biggest proponent of Clay Helton on Twitter is that blind long snapper. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
Olsen?
Jake Olsen. But I mean, it's the question, like, where does USC go from here? Because we just talked about, let's say the buyout is $80 million. They're 3 years into a 10-year contract. Say what you want about USC. They care about football. They care about football way more than UCLA does, and I will give them that. But what can you really do here? Can you genuinely ask donors to pool money, to pool $80 million to fire a guy that you sold them on just 3 years ago. Like, where do you go now?
Yeah, and then who are you going to hire, and how much are you going to give them?
Right. That's the thing, is that that's only half the battle. Now you have to structure an additional contract and lure a guy. So they're paying Riley $11 million a year. That's second only to Kirby and Dabo. Say what you want about Dabo, but that guy had kind of a little mini dynasty going at Clemson. He won what, 2 national championships?
Oh,
yeah. And then Kirby Smart runs the strongest program in the country, and he's second only to them. That blows my mind.
Yeah, and I mean, some of this, you see these funny tweets. I like how UCLA isn't getting lumped into this, but it's USC killed the Pac-12 just to go to just to go to wherever Minnesota and lose. I mean, we lost to Minnesota, sure, but it's one thing for a program to have playoff aspirations at the beginning of the season, and think, hey, maybe we're in the race for maybe making the Big Ten championship, maybe one of those at-large playoff bids, and then to be 3-4, I think, right?
No, the funniest thing about all of this is that we are ranked for second to last. We are tied for second to last in the Big Ten with us and USC.
Yes,
and
both 1 and 4.
When you just look at like the commitment that each school has shown to their programs, you have USC paying. What in total? What would that contract be worth? It's $110 million to where we promote our running backs coach, and who can't deliver a press conference, yet we are virtually in the same position. With respects to our conference. It's fucking hilarious.
The only thing is probably we're spending less than a tenth of what they're paying him.
I mean, I think it's also worth noting that there was speculation when Lincoln Riley bolted from Oklahoma, especially from Oklahoma fans, that he was afraid to join the SEC, because when he bolted to USC, at the time USC was in the Pac-12, and there was no one even talked about USC in the Big Ten. So then he leaves and kind of runs from more physical, bigger style football, and then gets dragged by his hair into the Big Ten. It's like, no, you're gonna play big football whether you like it or not. And now he's 3-4.
Yeah, and he'll always hang his head on the the NFL quarterbacks that he has in Caleb and Baker and Kyler Murray, but and even Jalen Hurts, I guess, right? But yeah, I mean, what the job he's getting paid to do, he's not succeeding.
It's kind of like the Chip Kelly thing. It's that's only a fraction of the job. Okay. All right. Switching over to some UCLA basketball news. 4-star or 5-star recruit? 4-star recruit Nicholas Kamenia.
Right on the border.
Yeah, right on the cusp. He's probably going to turn into a 5-star very
top
soon.
20, yeah.
Top 20 prospect announced today on Tuesday, October 22nd, that he will be going to Duke to join the Brotherhood. As of just a few days ago, reports were looking good that UCLA was the leader for Kamenia, but obviously that did not turn out. What are we thinking about this one?
I mean, I think all the crystal ball predictions had UCLA on this, so I was very, very surprised. I actually if it was going to be a shirt versus a hat, I knew it was going to be Duke because I could see a white T-shirt underneath his jacket, and I just didn't see it, it being UCLA. But I was watching it live, and I saw some quotes after. It said, when I stepped on foot at Duke, it just felt like home. It felt like a magical place. So, I mean, I don't know if this was a late pull from Duke or if this is something that, maybe it was an NIL thing. Maybe he got tons of money. But, I mean, going back to Trent Perry, switching from USC to UCLA, Harvard-Westlake connection, I really thought that UCLA had this one. And it's a big prospect to lose. It's probably one of the largest prospects we still have a chance at in the 2025 class.
I was going to say he's in-state as well, like you mentioned, Kyle.
In-state, L.A., man.
It's tough to hear that. I mean, a lot of it was probably just for the media saying, yeah, I stepped on at Duke and it felt like home. But, how does UCLA not? What is Cronin and his staff doing? And I think Cronin has earned a long leash for us, but still, it's kind of disappointing to see how well he does in the transfer portal, especially this year, which we'll touch on. And is he kind of struggling with those freshman recruits here and there?
Our class last year, our freshman class that's incoming this year, if we didn't pick up Trent Perry,
right,
and it was going to be a walk-on and 1 4-star. Obviously, we had a big class last year with all those Europeans came in, and there's only some of them that stayed. They're not. Most of them are gone at this point. So I think that Cronin recruiting-wise, I really felt like if we scored Nicholas from Harvard-Westlake, LA guy, it was going to be a big momentum shift for UCLA basketball recruiting. If we scored this guy, then could potentially lead to some other big ones in the 2026 class.
Yeah, there's no real other way to look at it that's going to make you feel really good about this kid going to Duke. That's about as painful as it gets. It's your backyard. That's your recruiting hotbed. You are a blue blood that's supposed to be running things on not just LA, not just California, but the entire West Coast. Those are your guys to lose. And then you've got Duke of all fucking programs coming and picking them out of your pocket. It sucks because the Dukes are the one that is your direct competition. It's not USC. It's not even Oregon. It's the Gonzagas. It's the Dukes. It's the North Carolinas.
Arizona
It's Arizona, and those are the guys that you've got to hit, man. And I'm not going to get overly emotional on it because I thought Mick had a fantastic offseason that we'll see if it plays out. But he was effective in the transfer portal this past offseason, so there is that. But you really just want to see these guys come home and put on a Bruin hat like I was familiar seeing growing up. But whatever. You know what is kind of a silver lining is not a silver lining, but you know why this is actually perfect is because if you look at this kid's face and with him being from Harvard Westlake, he just fits in so perfectly at Duke visually. Yeah. I can see myself hating him already.
Yeah, but maybe Kyle, you brought that point in our group chat earlier. Yeah. Maybe he doesn't get too much action at Duke. I mean, they are a pretty They just signed the Boozer twins, I think, as well.
Yep.
So maybe he doesn't get too much action, and he turns into Johnny Juzang kind of kid who comes back.
I don't want him. I already hate him.
Yeah.
He's already on my Mount Rushmore of hate. Which, while we're on the topic of, do we do just college basketball? Because if we do all sports, it's just going to take too long. College basketball speaking. What is your Mount Rushmore of hate? You've got 4 heads to put on it. I'll start us off.
You're going to take my 1-1. I know it.
Really?
Yeah.
You can just see it in my eyes?
Yeah.
Drew Timme?
Oh, no. Wow. No. Great one. Okay.
Because my second was Alonzo Trier?
No. My first one is Joakim Noah.
Oh, God. Yeah. Okay. So I have one spot left because that's going on for sure.
Keon, when you said this, Ross, I must have missed players because I was thinking Florida as my 1-1, and then Gonzaga, Arizona. But Joakim Noah. I mean, those were the days that UCLA
2 national championships.
Yeah, 2 national championships.
I've got Drew Timme, Alonzo Trier, Joakim Noah. Ooh, that 4th spot. I don't know. There's not really been too many SC. Drew Peterson, but he wasn't good. And honestly, that's unfair. That was just because I hated his face.
I hated Drew Peterson.
I did hate Drew Peterson. I mean, we got Arizona. There's
who's the Oregon?
Dylan Brooks.
Dylan Brooks.
I feel like this is a pretty mutual Mount Rushmore we've got going. Yeah. You have to put Timme. You've got. I mean, people that have really just terrorized our emotions. It's Timme. It's Noah. It's Brooks.
Yep.
Strother.
Who was that?
Strother's the guy that hit the 3 in the Sweet 16. Hawkins' final year.
Oh, Jalen Suggs.
I mean, I would say,
but they were just one.
I would say Suggs before that guy. But I mean, that was one off.
Yeah. Timme and Joakim Noah are probably my 1-2.
Who was the point?
I might just erect a monument of hate for Timme by himself.
Yeah.
And put it in like a migration path of the bird species that shits the most.
Fucking mustache, and he would do the little mustache thing.
Where is he now?
He's in the G League, I think.
Of course he is, because you knew that would never translate.
He was 30 years old by the time he went to the NBA.
Yeah, he plays in the G League.
Outside of Joakim Noah, I got one for you guys. Arizona Wildcat.
Okay, whoa.
Recent years.
Recent years?
It's not Alonzo Trier.
Recent years.
He already mentioned Alonzo Trier.
In the 2020s?
Recent years. Yep, he was there in 2020.
No, I just meant in the 2020s.
Yes.
It's gonna be Kerr Kriisa.
Oh my God, I freaking hated that dude, man.
I never really understood. He wasn't very good, and I feel like he would always be so bad against UCLA. And everyone hates Kerr Kriisa, but I'm like, the kid was kind of fucking trash. Like, I'm gonna hate you if you're pretty good.
Recently, I also didn't like. Is it Tinkle?
Oh, yeah.
The Oregon State son of the coach.
If the last name wasn't Tinkle, I wouldn't hate him as much.
But he would always come on and just, he's the white kid, the coach's son, who just sits in the corner and you feed him threes.
Yeah.
And always, I felt like he would shoot like 6 threes against UCLA.
Wayne is the dad. What was the kid's name?
Is it Trey?
Trey Tinkle, I think that's right. I'm checking. Oh, yeah, Tress, spelled Tress. Currently playing in...
Tress Tinkle.
Where is Basketball Super League?
Yeah.
Oh, Turkey.
There you go.
Well, anyways...
Okay.
Yeah, let's move along. What are we talking about next? Rutgers?
Yeah.
All right. Let's switch gears once again. Let's talk football. Let's talk this UCLA victory over Rutgers, 35-32. This is obviously UCLA's first win since opening the season with a win at Hawaii. First win in the Big Ten, and really kind of the first win where it felt like a win, I would say. This was the most points UCLA scored this season by 3 possessions. Its previous high was 17. UCLA goes out and scores 35, and I think this goes without saying that this was the best performance we've seen out of Ethan Garbers, and it's not particularly close. Set career highs in completions, yards, and touchdowns, and was Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week. Congrats to Garbers, QB1.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, Ross. I think from the beginning of the game, this was pretty dominant of a victory. I think the scoreline doesn't suggest. I think we deserve to win by 1 more touchdown, to be honest with you. I think it wasn't as close as a 1-possession game on the field. And yeah, Garbers had a great game. He proved all the doubters wrong in this cross-country flight all the way to Rutgers, body clock 9 a.m., and had a really good game.
I feel like, I mean, I'll admit that this offensive performance looked a little bit more like what I kind of expected when they brought on Eric Bieniemy as offensive coordinator. Now, granted, the run game is still not there, and Kyle, I'm waiting for you to share what the average rushing yards per carry was, because you always blow my mind with not just your speed of pulling it up, but the actual statistic itself.
You ready for it?
I'm ready for it.
3.1.
3.1.
31 carries for 95 yards. So a little bit better than a couple weeks.
Fuck, is that the season high? I feel like...
No, I actually looked up when preparing for this episode if it was a season high, and we actually had more... Our average was better in Indiana and Hawaii.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, it's to the point where you don't really even look to the run game now as like, when will it get fixed? It's not going to get fixed. Clearly, we're over halfway through the season now, and I mean, if they can even perform at 75% through the air of what they did against Rutgers, that can win you maybe a couple of games for the rest of the season. So maybe this is just Garbers' offense from here on out. Weirdly enough, for how good of an offensive game it was through the air, J. Michael Sturdivant did not have a single catch. We talked about that on the last episode, where it seems like UCLA football kind of picks 1 or 2 games a year to throw and use J. Michael Sturdivant, and outside of that, it's like he's not even on the roster. It's very strange.
Yeah, but then Maraveo came in and kind of took that spot for this game.
Yeah, dude, he has been one of the most consistent pieces, because I feel like receivers have kind of come and go throughout the season for UCLA, but Maraveo has been sort of that trusty target for both Garbers and Martin, and you could argue that he's an NFL caliber tight end from his size. If I'm not mistaken, he blocks pretty well.
Yeah.
Monteveo took over the lead for the team for reception yards for the season.
Really?
Prior to this previous game, it was T.J. Harden, our running back, was the leading receiver.
God, I'm surprised, because I feel like T.J. had significant yards through catching against Rutgers. Did he not?
TJ had 34. It was Keegan Jones that did all the receiving through the air. He had that long touchdown run, or not run. I wish it was a run. Touchdown. I think it was a swing pass, or he was just an option, an outlet at the sideline, and took off. I think that was in the second half at some point.
Yeah, it's fun. These wins are fun. It was fun to see guys just fun to see big plays and see your quarterback put up big numbers, because I like Garbers. He's been a tough guy. He's been a good Bruin, but. Having said that, and here comes my negativity, but I'm not being negative, I'm just being real. This is not a good Rutgers team by any means, and if I'm not mistaken, they had 4 or 5 starters out on defense. I'm happy you mentioned Keegan Jones catching balls out of the backfield. This defense seemingly, it was like Mandarin Chinese, the idea of them covering running backs out of the backfield. They left them completely wide open. If you go back and rewatch the game, they had no concern about covering the running backs, and that's easy yards, that's easy chunks, that's not sustainable. Not to say that the offense doesn't look improved, but the biggest problems that UCLA's had all year are still there, and I don't want to take too much away from this because, dude, I think Rutgers is pretty fucking bad. I'm very curious to see how they play against. That might be the funnest Friday night of all time is USC playing Rutgers. Because if you're ready for DEFCON 4 in South Central, look no further than Rutgers beating USC at the Coliseum.
And Rutgers has a really talented running back.
Yeah.
And Monungai, Kyle Monungai. And he could give that USC defense that hasn't been all that it's promised to be some really big fits.
You guys know the spread on that game?
No,
Ooh. Let me guess. I'm going to go, it is 4.5 USC.
No. It's got to be like,
Let's hear it, Ross.
I feel like Vegas will still like USC, go like minus 14.5.
Dude, Ross, you got to be a book.
Wow.
Wow. Are you serious? People
Minus 14. USC minus 14.
People are now going to think that I'm full of shit. Because you knew it. Dude, I swear,
to back.
I swear on my life. It's just, I don't, one, I'm taking Rutgers there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I just think it's just the name brand that I know Vegas knows all, but I think they're just going to gravitate towards the idea of Lincoln Riley scoring a lot of points and Rutgers being bad and it being on the road. Dude, no one's going to be at that game. They're playing at the same time as the Dodgers in game one of the World Series in LA.
Shit.
I kind of want to do attendance projections for the USC Rutgers game.
Ooh. 30 less than
No.
38.
I was going to say, are we going to have more people at Dodger Stadium or at the Coliseum? Dodger
absolutely.
Stadium holds 55,000.
I would. That's a great prop. I'm going to go Dodger Stadium. I would say SC gets about 45,000 for that game.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree.
The Rutgers isn't going to bring anybody. I bet there's a number of USC fans going to Dodger Stadium or they're at home watching. I mean, dude, this is like the abandonment game for them. They're giving up now.
If they lose, this is season might be over.
Season's already lost. Yeah, for them. Given the expectations, and after that LSU win, they thought that they were back. They had that stupid hype video with the airplane. They thought they were back, and they're no better than UCLA under Deshaun Foster, and that is just a fantastic thing to hear come out of my mouth.
You want to talk about the defense?
Yeah, let's switch over to D.
Brian Addison had a good game.
Brian Addison is one of many guys who I think are solid players on the defense.
Yeah, he almost. I mean, I sent you guys on that one interception. I thought it was a pick six because I was watching on my phone at the time, and he stepped out of bounds there.
Oh my God, it was so close to being his second pick six of the year. Yeah, he could have easily stayed in bounds. That was just a clumsy run out of bounds.
Yeah, and it didn't end up being, didn't end up hurting us, but it could have theoretically. Did we score off that? We scored off that.
No, that's where we fumbled.
Oh, that was the fumble one.
That's where we fumbled.
Who fumbled?
Garbers on that 3rd and 5.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's why I said this
3rd
game.
And 5. Yeah, it was 3 minutes left, and I thought we were going to run the ball because Rutgers had no more timeouts, and we went ahead and passed it. We fumbled, and Rutgers recovered.
This is the fourth quarter we're talking about. Yeah, dude. I forgot that we still haven't covered game management. Our favorite segment on this show is.
I'll give DeFoster, if we're going to talk about game management, I will give Deshaun Foster in the first half his props on going for it on 4th and 1 from our own 19.
Facts.
That's where. That's the drive that ended up being Garber's long 49-yard touchdown run where we don't win the game if he doesn't go for it on 4th and 1 technically.
There were some 4th down calls to go for it that were impressive that I know for a fact he would not have made in week 1, maybe even as recent as last week. I think we're truly starting to see the training wheels maybe slowly wobble and come off. But you go fast forward to the second half, and you've got Mateen Begani lining up for a 49-yarder. And somehow, I don't know what it is with this team this year breaking the huddle so late, but they break the huddle, and you're watching the play clock, and you're like, oh, they're not going to have enough time to get this off. I think we had 3 timeouts.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, well, obviously we're going to call a timeout here. We let the play clock expire for a 49-yarder.
Yeah, it's already long.
It's already what's a season long? 54?
Yeah.
So you're going to force him to take, and then of course he kicks it as it expires, and it's perfect. And then we get the delay of game penalty, reattempt at 54, and he misses it. And now, you should not reattempt that.
Just go for it.
No, you punt it.
Or punt it.
You punt it. It was a double. It was like it just kept getting worse in that like 60-second span, and it just spoils everything that he did well that game. He one-ups himself every week. He makes a your little brother playing Madden type mistake every fucking week. I've never seen a play clock expire with a timeout.
Yeah.
Letting the play clock expire. What would that have made the score? Where were we at? We pulled
38. It would have been 38-25. We were 35-25.
Oh boy, man. Yeah, and then to not punt it when you're up 10. And you attempt that field goal, it's just so dumb, and it put him at like the
I mean, there was only 4 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, you punt it.
Yeah,
we got a good punter, Brody Richter.
He's very good.
Shout out to Brody Richter, man. That guy's got a nuke for a leg. Special teams has actually been a pretty solid bright spot.
Yeah.
But no fault to Pagani. The first one was perfect. He shouldn't have even been attempting that second one, and that's kind of why earlier on in the episode, guys, I wanted to kind of bring us back to, look, this was against Rutgers, and where are our expectations of this football program? Like, it's fun to beat these teams. It's fun to see the Bruins win. It's fun to see big games from your quarterback. But I'm not willing to lose sight of how I feel about this coaching staff, and it's that it feels very amateur.
I was gonna ask you the question, Ross. Last couple of weeks you've brought it up that maybe it's not the best thing in the interest of long term of the program to win. Has that changed? Do you feel the same way after seeing a win?
I feel differently, but not for good reasons. Because I think that, especially seeing Jarman's face on the field, hogging up the camera, being his normal self after that win, I think 2 wins is all that was really needed to lock in a second year for Deshaun. I think even 1-11 would have still been kind of a reach, but maybe there's a discussion. At 2-10. As silly as that sounds, I think at 2-10, you have to fully expect Deshaun to get a second year. So at this point, why would I not? Especially when you got the USCs, and at this point, I've come to terms that we don't have the balls as an athletic department to make any changes, especially after 2 wins, which is just a pathetic thing to hear myself say. So I'm going to go and root for UCLA to win because now I have no other reason not to.
From my understanding of the Foster contract, A, the buyout can't be that much. B, just to begin with, I don't think it's long-term anyway. I think there's probably 3 years would be the maximum I think there is on that deal.
It's a 5-year contract.
Is it 5?
Yep, that's like the standard.
Okay, but I was going to say, I think they have some clause in there at the 3-year mark, from what I understand, that they can reevaluate and the buyout would be something significantly less.
It'll change in December. I mean, if we're waiting 3 years for a fucking buyout, then I actually lose hope. But anyways, happy for the players. I'm happy for Garbers for having a career game. I still have no faith in this coaching staff, and that's where I'm at. Sorry.
But the good news is we don't have a game this weekend.
Yeah, we don't have a game this weekend. It'll be this is a weekend for the Dodgers, man.
Exactly.
We could put a hold on this situation for now, but that'll make our jobs harder next week. What the heck are we going to talk about?
Oh yeah.
Should we switch gears to basketball?
Yeah, let's do it.
Want to go into the basketball preview?
Yeah.
Yeah. How long have we been talking? There's a lot of shit that I'm gonna cut down on this, so we don't really have to worry about time.
Sure.
Okay.
I do have a 5:45-ish hard stop.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to just do this next week? Because
basketball,
20 minutes. Yeah,
because we won't have a review. We won't have a review.
We won't have I feel like the review takes a while. Just the recap.
We've been
less,
recording for 42 minutes.
42.
Yeah, it's already been long.
It's maybe not. It's not a bad idea, Kyle.
Yeah. It'll probably turn out to it'll be a shorter episode. It'll be a little over 30 minutes.
Let's just
normally cut down 8 or 9 minutes.
I say we just shoot the shit about Dave Roberts, UCLA versus USC, and say a few other things, and then
a little getting parlayed. We recap that.
A little getting parlayed,
and then we'll do a full basketball
preview next week.
And Nebraska.
cool. We'll go back to that. And in case we didn't need any more pressure added to the Dodgers being in the World Series, we've got Dave Roberts, obviously a UCLA baseball alum and current manager of the Dodgers, facing off against, what's his name? Aaron Boone, Trojan scumbag, leading the
evil empire.
The evil empire. So this is going to be good.
Dude, I'm fired up. I mean, this is the time to be a Dodgers fan. I feel like all these Dodgers fans come out of the weeds in October, and
that's true.
You see the Instagram stories, but
don't talk shit about your host. That's me. I learn rules every time I watch a baseball game, yet I have my jersey hanging up right behind me, ready to be worn on Friday.
No, but Dave Roberts is just a class guy. I've met him 3-4 times. I mean, such a good UCLA Bruin. He comes back. He does things, with the baseball program. And honestly, I've never understood the hate on Dave Roberts with the Dodgers. I mean, he's amongst a great, all-time great manager at this point. The postseason wins, the resume, the NL West, and if he can add a second World Series to his resume against the New York Yankees, a matchup that's we haven't seen in years and years and years in the World Series. It's gonna be a great World Series, and I'm fired up. I mean, Aaron Judge, Juan Soto.
Well, Kyle,
Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, you can't really beat that.
Kyle, if I'm not mistaken, I'm at least aware that Roberts has gotten a healthy amount of criticism during his time as manager of the Dodgers. But this current offseason, I've heard, and just kind of what I've gathered as a casual fan, he's actually done a fantastic job with managing, given the bullpen situations, keeping certain guys in. Would you attest?
Yeah. I mean, look at you, Ross, knowing about the bullpen situation.
I'm learning every day.
No, he's had to go to I want to say 3 bullpen games where he's had no starter. I mean, the Dodgers' starting rotation has so many injuries. I mean,
they don't 3 have starters right now.
Yeah, they have 3 starters right now. They have Yamamoto, they have
Flaherty and Walker.
Flaherty and Walker. And shout out to Walker Buehler, man. I mean, night and day for where he was at in the middle of the season.
He's a good friend of the program.
Yeah, I mean, Dave Roberts has done a magnificent job with the rotation. I mean, Vestia went down too, so I don't want to make this a Dodgers podcast. I could go on for a while about Dave Roberts and the job he's done this postseason, but Ross, I agree with you.
Hell yeah, dude! I know everything.
Yeah, and besides UCLA, all of us are Dodger fans, so it's one of the teams we share.
There you go.
So.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, let's stay on the same wavelength of us being on the same team by switching to getting parlayed.
Mm-hmm.
Which, did we get our first win?
No, we didn't. This was on me. You two both hit yours. Kyle, shout out Kyle hitting his first pick of the season. But yeah, I had Texas.
Let's fucking go, boys.
Oh God, hey, why not blame me for that? Because I thought that was gonna be a beatdown, and it certainly was, but not in the way that I thought it would.
Yeah. So I had Texas. I think it was 3.5, and at home. Best team in the country, all this hoopla, and Quinn Ewers laid an absolute egg in the first half, and my hopes and dreams were drained with that, and those of anybody tailing.
Well, we are looking forward, and for this week's Getting Parlayed, I'm going to start us off, because we haven't tried this combination yet.
Go for it.
And you guys have already heard my pick. Give me the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers, plus 14 at USC at the Coliseum. You think that the wheels have popped off in South Central. I think wait till you tune in on Friday night, or at least hear the recap, because nobody's watching that shit. Wait till you see the recap on SportsCenter on Saturday. I can see Lincoln Riley losing the locker room and this becoming the greatest soap opera in the Western Hemisphere. So stay tuned for that. Give me Rutgers plus 14. Go Scarlet Knights. What's their war cry?
Yeah, birthplace of college football.
Birthplace college football.
I just see that everywhere on their stadium.
What Gabagool?
Keon?
I was going to pick LSU as a road dog against Texas A&M. I'm looking for the spread. I think it's 4, but they're going into Kyle Field. They are 8th. Texas A&M is 14th, and the ratings obviously don't mean a ton, but. I don't know. Not too convinced of Texas A&M. I think LSU kind of turned a leaf going into this. They hung in there with Ole Miss. I think they eventually beat Ole Miss as well. So, and they're in a fight for the SEC title, especially now with Bama dropping points, Georgia not points. I'm thinking of soccer, dropping wins, Georgia dropping wins, and Texas dropping wins. SEC's kind of wide open, so I think that'll fuel some stuff for the LSU Tigers. Kyle.
Hell yeah. Well, boys, we are in week 9 of college football. I have successfully picked this segment only one time correctly. So I think it's safe to say that I have to go back to the well. I picked Colorado last week. I got to go Colorado -5.5 again versus Cincinnati. And I will do it every single week until they prove me wrong. Coach Prime.
Dude, I was just going to say, I think that you're due, Kyle, with everything you're telling me. That just means that you're due to hit.
There we go.
Yeah. This is the week.
We're going to do it. That'll be like something like plus 450 or something for the full slip if you're going to tail, which I will, as I have every year, or every week, but we only need one for me to make up all the losses from the other week.
You guys have the chills right now? Cool.
Right.
Is that all we got today?
Yeah.
Cool.
That's all we got.
All right. Well, thank you as always for tuning in to the SBS podcast. And once again, shout out to friend of the pod, Jake Moberg. We will be seeing you at Poly Pavilion on December 3rd to take on the Huskies. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week when we recap this UCLA bye week and preview the matchup against the Nebraska Cornhuskers. We will see you then. Go Bruins.
Go Bruins.
Go Bruins.
Okay.